It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. Congrats, your business is doing great. All your hard work is paying off, but you need help like now, and you have to hire fast. How can you hire amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. And with sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. One of the things I love most about Indeed is that it has one of the largest databases of job seekers, giving employers access to a wide range of candidates. And with job alerts, I get notified when new candidates apply. And with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. So how fast? Well, in the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 244.
244. Hey!
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host.
He, wants you to move to San Diego and hang out, dude. Chillin'.
Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Hiring shouldn't be a hassle or a drain on your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check all in one place. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way that they staff key projects and initiatives by assessing a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI, design, administration support, marketing, and more. And I've personally used them myself and can vouch for them. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Go there now. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me today in session 244 of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. Thank you all for your birthday wishes as well. I just turned 34 and I'm feeling young as ever, feeling fit, feeling happy, feeling stress-free, despite having many projects going on. But you know what? Those projects fuel my happiness. I wouldn't be doing them unless I was happy. And hopefully you're working on stuff that's making you happy too. And if not, hopefully you're working toward getting to that point. Today, we have a great guest on the show with us. That is Nathan Barry, who you may have heard before on the show. He's been on a couple times before. One, to talk about his ebook business, which he since closed down because he started a new software business called ConvertKit. And we started talking together when I switched from Infusionsoft, which was I switched from Aweber, which is an email service provider, to Infusionsoft, to then ConvertKit, his product, and why I use that for email service now. And for those of you who are on my email list, you'll be getting emails from ConvertKit or have gotten them already. And I love it because it just does so many things so easy. But I wanted to talk to Nathan again today to talk about how he was able to bootstrap that business, which is now making over $5 million a year. I was actually right there in the beginning when he started this thing and have seen him grow over time. And now he's sort of on this exponential curve upward. And I wanted to talk about how he's been able to do that. But also I wanted to talk about some of the growing pains, because it's definitely scary when I think of myself, if I were in his position, creating a business like he's done with a much larger team now, and all the things that are involved with that. I mean, it's not necessarily something I would want to do, but I think it's something that we need to talk about so that you can see if this is a thing that you want or not. And for many of you, this is exactly what you want. And for some of you, you might see that, well, the business idea you have, which could potentially lead down this road, isn't what you want. And it's important to understand these things now before you put in that time, money, and effort into something. You want to be putting that time, money, and effort into something that you know that you want. And so that's why we're talking with people who are successful on this show, so you can see which ones resonate with you or not. And like I said, today we're talking with Nathan Barry, CEO and founder of ConvertKit, a company that I'm also an advisor for. I'm an advisor for a few companies, and what that means is I have a little bit of a role in terms of helping that company based on my expertise, based on my position in the marketplace, and based on what I see and hear. And I can help them out by sharing sort of what I hear from the front lines from you guys, you listening, what you like, what you dislike, and I can pass that on and help improve the company in that way. And we talk a little bit more about the specifics. We also talk about numbers. We also talk about what that deal is like, myself as an advisor for this company. And this is all really interesting stuff. This is brand new to me, and it's likely brand new to you as well. But hey, we're going to dive right in. So here's Nathan Barry from ConvertKit.com. For those of you who are going to end up using it at some point, you can use my affiliate link if you'd like, which is smartpassiveincome.com/ConvertKit, which at no extra cost to you puts a little bit of money back into SPI, which is awesome. So again, that's smartpassiveincome.com/ConvertKit. And here's Nathan. What's up, everybody? I'm so happy to welcome back to the show Nathan Barry, CEO and founder of ConvertKit.com. Welcome back, Nathan. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back.
And thank you for taking the time. I know you just got back from a trip to Thailand. You were there to speak, and you've been speaking quite a bit and have become known in this space for somebody who's built this amazing company. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an advisor for the company and I'm just very thankful to be a part of it, but because you built the company in a way that's a little different than a lot of the other SaaS companies and software solution companies out there where people are getting venture capital and angel investing and getting a whole bunch of people to put money in. You were able to do it purely bootstrapped. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we haven't taken any outside money. It's been entirely customer funded, other than I put in some money over time that ended up being about $65,000 over the life of the entire company.
Okay.
But other than that, every dollar from customers.
That's awesome. And that is a pretty unique story, I think, out there, especially with something this big and this successful. Currently, can you share some of the numbers I mean, we're recording this right now in October of 2016. Most of you who are listening to this right now are listening to it at the end of 2016 or perhaps in the future. So it's probably grown even more since recording this. But what's really cool is ConvertKit also shares their numbers transparently on a site called Bear Metrics. And a few other companies do this. I know Buffer App does it and ConvertKit too, where you can see their monthly recurring revenue, their annual run rate, which is how much money they're set to make in revenue every year based on the number of users they have. And you can even see in real time how many customers are subscribing and what they're paying and all that stuff. So do you have any numbers to share right now? Obviously, I know you don't mind sharing because it's out there in the world, but where are you guys at right now?
Yeah, so we're at 440,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. That's from just over 9,000 customers, and we're growing by about 8% every month. That's
insane, and that equates to about a little over $5.25 million every single year. Now, big question: how much of that is profit at this point? I know you have a big team, and you pay them, and you have to pay for resources to make your company work. Of the $440K per month, like how much of it is kind of left over? And I know you use that to grow the company even more.
Yeah, so that's actually been a big journey for us because back in January of 2016, we were losing money. Like we actually lost money that month, and so we made a huge push to get profitable. We went from losing money to 3% profit margins to 10, and then by June of this year, we were at 52% profit margins. And that was really skewing too heavily towards profit. And so then we've kind of readjusted. And since then, we've been operating at about 30% profit margins. And that's the right balance of saving up enough money and having kind of this war chest. And really, you need a lot of cash in the bank. When you get to the point where you're spending $250,000 a month on staff and servers and all of that. So 30% is about where we sit right now.
But it's really interesting that right there, what you just said, that you were still kind of in the red in January of 2016, even though the company's been up for a while. I think a lot of people, when they build their software businesses, they expect to, have some profit right away. Can you speak to, realistically, especially if you are not getting capital from outside sources, what the expectant kind of timeline is for, the revenue growth and when it starts to become profitable?
Yeah, I think there's no standard. Building a subscription business takes a lot longer than I thought it would. I came from the ebook world, and so that you can build up an audience of 1,000 people and launch a course to them, and you've got $10,000 in revenue, relatively quickly. And that was not my experience with SaaS at all, and software as a service. And so it really took a long time to get going. So I think other people could have done it faster in the early days, but really in the last 2 years, we've probably done it faster than than most other companies out there. So on the profit side, I would expect to run at break even, where you're spending every dollar that comes in. I would plan to do that for a long time. We did that up until we were about $120,000 a month in revenue. One of our employees, I think the fourth employee that we brought in, he came in at part-time, and then I think he started at like 15 hours a week. And the next week I was like, hey, Matt, can you switch to 20 hours a week? And then 2 weeks later, I was like, can you go to 30? And he was like, okay, wow, I must be doing a good job. And he was doing a great job, but also we were buying more hours from him as MRR increased. So basically, we just spent the money exactly as we had it. And I would say expect to do that for a long time.
Now, you were taking money for yourself at this time, right? You were paying yourself a salary, or were you not?
I started paying myself a salary of January of this year. So I was 3 years in before I started paying myself a salary. And then later this summer, I finally repaid like the money that I'd loaned the company, which was a total of about $65,000.
Back to yourself.
Yeah. And for tax reasons, that ended up being a loan and then a repayment of a loan.
I see. So for 3 years, you didn't have an income coming in. Is that the way you're kind of trying to explain it?
Yeah, I made my money from my blog and from my ebooks. And, I had this idea of, I'm going to focus on ConvertKit and it's going to take off. And while it does this, like my books and courses are going to continue to sell, and so I don't need to worry about money. But I focused entirely on ConvertKit and 100% neglected the other business. And it went from about, averaging 15,000 a month in revenue, the other business that is, to drop down pretty quickly to about 2,000 a month. And I'm really bad at balancing different businesses. Some people can juggle a lot of things and do that successfully. I can't. I tried for a long time. And so I would kind of each month watch like my books and courses like coast down closer and closer to zero, and just focused on ConvertKit. So I actually ended up cashing out all of my all of my investments. I had about $50,000 in like Wealthfront, so just in like index funds and stuff, and I ended up selling all of that off just to live off of, because I didn't want to take focus away from ConvertKit as it was going well. So yeah, that's how I lived for 3 years without taking a salary.
Now, was that, okay, so I'm thinking about what it's like for somebody to listen to this. You had built a successful company from the ground up, no bootstrapping, but you did have some money set aside and you had this other business going for you. So if somebody were to say, Nathan, I would love to build a business and bootstrap it just like you did, I think it's fantastic. You don't have to share any of your company with other people and give up a little bit of control that way. But I don't have that side business like you had. You had, and you've been on the show before talking about this, a very successful ebook business. You shared with us some amazing price tier structures that allowed you to really maximize the impact that you were having with those books. And as a reminder, Nathan was creating books, helping designers and app creators with their UI, and he has an expertise in user interface, which is why I feel ConvertKit's actually one of the best out there, because it just looks and functions great. But to somebody who's asking themselves, man, I would love to bootstrap a business like Nathan, but I don't have that side business. I'm working 9 to 5. I don't have that kind of money in the bank. Is bootstrapping a business like you did even possible, or is that money kind of necessary so that you can sort of take the months or years even without taking any income from that business that you're building?
Yeah, so it depends a lot on the type of business. And if you're trying to build something of the scale of ConvertKit or really any software as a service business, it's going to take a lot, and it takes a skill set. So I would not start that as your first business. Jason Fried from Basecamp talks about making money being a skill and something that you should practice over time, just like you would, playing drums or cooking or any other skill. And so I think of it as a SaaS company or a software of any kind is a type of business and a level of skill that you should attempt after you've spent a few years practicing. And so I think, doing services for other people, that's like a great baseline of where to start. And then you can ramp up into simple products. Those might be books or courses, iPhone applications, some of these more standalone, smaller things, before making the step into like full-fledged software. And so as you establish those skills, you'll also establish the ability, to earn income before you attempt something that's really, really difficult and takes a long time, which is, software as a service.
And another thing that comes to mind is, well, you had an audience already and had many people who were building their own email lists and building their own blogs and brands. And so just as you mentioned in the last time you were on the show, you built ConvertKit for yourself and people like you. So when you started it, you already had some kind of an audience who could already use it, which differs from a lot of people who have these ideas for these softwares, or maybe they're coming up with solutions for problems that they have, but they don't have an audience yet. Here's a big question. Is bootstrapping for everybody? And
No.
would you recommend people even go out and get venture capitaling if they don't have those resources?
Yeah, so I kind of see them as two different things. One, I don't think that bootstrapping is for everyone. There's a lot of types of businesses that benefit really well from getting venture capital. But I think a lot of people think of venture capital as a necessary step. And I'd say in most businesses, it's not. Certainly for our business, we've been able to do it without funding. It would accelerate the timeline if you're able to raise funding.
Mm-hmm.
You'll basically either win or lose faster. The stakes are higher at that point. What might have been a great $20,000 a month business that we should never complain about. If that was bootstrapped, like that's a success. But if you raise $500,000 or a couple million of venture capital, and that's the pinnacle of what you can achieve, even $100,000 a month, that would be a failure. And so, they would be pushing you to higher limits. So I would watch out for the idea of venture capital being like a first step that you have to achieve, because it's kind of like, asking permission from someone else to start your business. Because you're saying, I can get customers once I convince these angel investors to give me $250,000. And I don't like that. The first place to go is to customers. And so I'd start there. You can never go wrong trying to sell customers and like get pre-orders and that kind of thing from day one, because then if the business works. What would be awful is to put in a bunch of VC money or a bunch of your own money and then find out 6 months or a year or more down the road that like no one actually wants to buy what you're selling. And it's too easy to do that if you're funding it some other way than with customers.
Right. And then when it comes to the money required to start this business, you had this other business that was helping you. You had some money in the bank already. How much money would be needed? How does one even know what the costs would be? If somebody's doing software, for example, would they actually go and reach out to a developer or potentially partner with somebody and just see what that cost would be and kind of work backwards from there before they get to a point where they're like, okay, I've saved up enough money. I'm going to take the plunge and actually start building this thing. Like, where does that, you had enough to start. How does somebody know they have enough to start?
Yeah. So if you have customers, you can always work on it, or you get pre-orders, you can always work on it with that money. So where I would start is talk to contractors, get estimates, and then, probably triple or quadruple those as far as to get a realistic amount of what you're going to spend.
Right.
And then another big factor is going to be your own skill set. So if you know nothing about building software, then expect that you're going to lead these contractors down some other route that is going to waste a bunch of time and money, or you're not going to communicate with them efficiently. And so I would spend some time learning the basics of software design, learning the basics of user experience, how to wireframe out software and explain, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, more than just a list of features. The more you can do that and the more you understand about the process, the more time you'll save. The more money you'll save. I saved a lot of money because I knew design and front-end code. So in the early days, I spent about $10,000 to have a Ruby on Rails developer build like that first prototype, and I did all of the design and the HTML and CSS. So I probably saved probably half the money for that first prototype. So I wouldn't expect to get any kind of an initial prototype done for less than $20,000 unless you're able to do a bunch of that work yourself.
Now, people are hearing that $20,000. That's a lot of money, Nathan. Is there anything one could do beforehand, but before they get to that point? And you had mentioned collecting pre-orders to fund some of that. I mean, how does one, like, let's start from the beginning. Like, if I have a software idea, or if somebody in the audience has an idea for a solution that they need help with, that they think other people need help with, what would the steps be to begin to collect those pre-orders? I want to go hard on you a little bit. What if I don't even have any contacts of people who are influencers, or I don't have an audience of any kind?
Yeah, so if you're really starting from scratch, I would say pretty strongly you shouldn't start this business, because this, if there's different levels of difficulty in a business, I would put software at this is like a level 5 difficulty. And so I wouldn't try to skip to the end of the video game and play the hardest levels before you've worked your way up. So learn those core business skills of selling, of building an audience, of building a network along the way, and learn them on simpler products, where there's less money at stake. If you fail, it's not as big of a deal. And it just takes less time. Now, that said, if you want to dive straight into the more difficult side of business, I don't blame you. Entrepreneurs are crazy people, and
that we are.
We wouldn't get anything done otherwise. So what I would do is I would get really specific about who you're targeting, what problem you're solving, and don't just solve a problem. Well, for the case of ConvertKit, we were like, yeah, we're solving email for people who need email solutions, and that doesn't give you anyone to target because it's like, cool, anyone who uses email marketing is in our target market. That sucks. Later, what we did is we focused on email marketing for professional bloggers. And so now as you have that more narrow focus, then you can start to get on the phone with professional bloggers or teachers or designers or whoever your target market is and start to ask them, do you have this problem? What frustrations do you have? We started a lot of conversations just by saying, hey, I see you're using MailChimp. Is there anything frustrating you about that?
Mm.
And so, of course, everyone has frustrations. If you ask people using ConvertKit, do you have frustrations? They'd be like, yeah, here are my frustrations. No product is perfect. And so that's a great starting point to see, what problems can we solve. And everyone online, I feel like, wants to sell through content. They want to do content marketing. They want to write a blog post or email their list and just have all these sales come in. And I'm all for that, and I've done that a lot, and we do it now with ConvertKit. But in the early days, you're getting rejected all the time. And if you're only selling through content or selling through channels at scale, you don't know why you're getting rejected because everyone's hitting, they're just clicking the back button or they're hitting archive on your email. And they're not replying and saying, Nathan, I would buy this, except, and like sending you a detailed explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we sit down in person or we get on the phone and I'm saying, hey, Pat, you should buy this thing. You can't like hang up the phone or you can't like get up and like awkwardly shuffle out of the room. You have to actually say like, well, what about this? Or I don't think I'm going to buy it because I'm using this other tool. You're socially obligated to give real reasons. And then that enables a dialogue. And so if you end up not buying, I at least know exactly why you didn't buy. And if I can overcome those objections, then we might get to a sale. So with content, you're getting rejected and you have no idea why. And so I would encourage people, hunt down your target market, get really, really specific, and then get them on the phone and learn about their frustrations, tell them about your solution, and then try to get them to give you money. And do direct sales. And everyone says they don't scale, but if you can't get customers, who cares if it scales?
Right.
You've got to find channels that work.
And I know that you also met a lot of people in person to talk about these things, including myself. You took me out to coffee one day, and we started talking about how I was on Aweber, and then I switched to Infusionsoft, and you were just asking questions. You weren't being aggressive. You were just curious, and because we have a friendship and we just had coffee, we were just chilling, having a good time. And I think you got a lot out of that conversation, and that obviously led to months later me switching to ConvertKit and then me coming on board as an advisor and now promoting and sharing it as a recommended resource for everybody out there, which is awesome. And I know there's a lot of ConvertKit users out there. So hopefully you're enjoying this conversation with Nathan Barry, CEO and founder of ConvertKit. Whether you use ConvertKit or not, I think there's some big lessons here, especially when it comes to a lot of these big, grand software type business ideas that we have. It may not be for everybody is the big thing that I'm hearing. And, I have a little bit of a foot in the software space with the Smart Podcast Player. And even as small and as niched down as that product is, I mean, it's a lot of work. And one of the other things that comes to mind with this kind of stuff is the customer service that is needed in order to keep it alive and keep it thriving. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, Nathan, in terms of what was customer service like for you? Was it always just you? When did you start building a team, and what does that team look like now for you?
Yeah, so the first 2 years it was just me. Right about the 2-year mark, we started to bring on a bit more of a team. So a full-time developer and a full-time customer service and everything else sort of role. In the early days, it's all kind of catch-all.
When really quick, when you were just starting out and you said it's just you didn't do the development, right?
I had contracted.
You had contracted. Okay, so you worked with them kind of on the side specifically for the project itself, but you were your only employee at the time.
Yeah, and since I didn't get paid, I don't know how much of an employee I counted as, but that kind of scaled slowly. I guess really quickly on the hiring thing. One friend, Danny Inney, who runs a company called Miracy, He used to be Firepole Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
He and I were having breakfast one time, and he said, if you pay for half of someone's time, so if you hire them part-time, you're really getting a quarter of their attention. And ever since hearing that, I've made a push to try to hire full-time people who are focused entirely on ConvertKit. And I think that's paid off really well. And so I try to use full-time employees and take really great care of them rather than, doing any offshore development or outsourcing. And that's just my personal style. But that results in, a bigger team in-house. So right now we have 9,000 customers and 8 full-time people on our customer success team.
8 people specifically for customer service.
Yep, exactly.
That sounds like a lot, but what's their volume like?
Yeah, so we do about 250 replies per day.
Wow.
And we handle all of that inside of Help Scout, which we've tried a bunch of different customer support tools, and that's our favorite. Has the best metrics and reporting. The other thing is we started to roll out phone support a little while ago. So we don't have a phone number that you can call, but we have links in all of our emails and in the app where you can click to schedule a call. And so we have all these 20-minute or 15-minute phone call slots, and we do about 100 phone calls a week. And then the other thing that we're trying out is calling every customer who signs up and seeing anything we can do to help. How can we answer questions? And these are all things that we're trying to do just to make customers more successful. And, really the more successful you are, the more likely you are to stick with the product. And then I guess the other big part of it that 2 other people on the team spend a lot of time on is the customer migrations. And so if you're on, Aweber or MailChimp or Infusionsoft and above a certain threshold, basically above, I think it's 10,000 subscribers right now, then we'll do the migration for you for free. And so that's been a huge tool because people will say like, oh man, I'd love to switch, but it's too much work. And so we were able to just remove that objection and say, look, we'll do it for you for free. And then it's pretty hard to say no to that. And so, we now have 2 full-time people who that's all they're doing. And they're switching, 15 to 20 customers a week over and doing all of that work for them. But it pays off. We get a lot of bigger accounts, more influential people that way.
That's awesome. I love that, and how you're directly applying that to someone's specific objections when it comes to why they would not subscribe. I think that's really important. This is something that I tried to do with everything I do. Every blog post I write, every book that I write, every podcast episode I come out with, I try to think of, okay, what are the haters going to say? And, haters is maybe a strong word, but just what are the objections going to be, and make sure to address those. I think I picked that up in a Malcolm Gladwell interview, or even in a book where he specifically writes chapters based on people's initial readings of the manuscript, and he adds those extra chapters in if people have something to say, just to kind of counter those and directly address them. It's sort of like, Eminem in 8 Mile when he's rapping, and he at the end raps about himself and makes fun of himself before the other person can actually use that as ammunition because he already talked about it. Anyway, that's a stupid analogy, but that's awesome. You had mentioned again, January 2016 is when things start to shift in terms of being profitable, really starting that hockey stick growth. I'd love to have you speak on what attributed to that. What are some of the things that you put into place after years of being up, years of seeing, relatively small growth, and then boom, that big growth finally started to happen? What did you guys do purposefully to make that happen?
Yeah, so we basically focused full-time in the business October 2014. And so at the time we were doing $1,000 a month in revenue. And that's when I started direct sales, and we started these concierge migrations and doing anything we could to get customers. Fast forward to March of 2015, so 6 months later, and we'd hit $5,000 a month in revenue. End of July, which that's when you signed up, was July 2015. We were at $15,000 a month in revenue. And so that's really like that June, July timeframe is when things really started to take off. Because you came on, and then another really big site in a different industry called wellnessmama.com. Mm-hmm. They came on at the same time. And so it like getting 2 influencers in 2 entirely different spaces made a huge difference. And then, so we kind of kept having this linear growth. And then we started doing webinars and these other bigger promotions. Let's see, October of 2015, you dubbed that email marketing month. And I think that promotion alone with you added like $10,000 to our monthly recurring revenue. So that was like, 40 or 50% growth in a single month. And then we started doing webinars and getting like just a lot more word of mouth. And so we kind of hit that like initial scale of now there's like everyone was talking about us. Mm-hmm. Every customer was. But when there's 100 customers, that's not that much impact. But then once there's 1,000 customers and they're all telling their friends, that makes a big difference. And so really like those initial posts from you and also from the team at Wellness Mama, like in two separate industries, just made a huge impact. And because in the early days, it's really hard because people are like, yeah, but who uses you? Mm-hmm. And you're trying to say like, well, we have this, customer, or like we're used by, and you're like listing all these people that they may never have heard of. But then we're able to say like, oh, this big account that I know you've heard of, either you or Wellness Mama, like that made a huge difference and in the credibility. And so then things started to ramp up from there. So it was really about that time frame, because October we were like 25,000 a month in revenue, and then by the end of December, we'd hit just shy of 100,000 a month. So that was like 4x in 2.5 months or something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was crazy.
I know because I'm one of them, the influencers who kind of came on board and really pushed it hard. But I did that because it's a great product, and I think I knew everybody who uses it would enjoy it, and they have been. But I think it's really important that when you're building any kind of business, it's obvious that the relationships that you build are really going to help push your business forward. You can't possibly do this alone. You can't have word of mouth marketing for you if you're the mouth that's only talking. So you need to really get in connected well with other people, and you worked a long time to let our relationship kind of turn into something that eventually became beneficial for ConvertKit. And there was even no ask up front, but it's just because you knew you believed in the product and you knew it would help me. And that you were there as a resource once I finally needed it. And I think that's really important for any kind of business, no matter what you're selling. You need to connect with the right people. You need to make it easy for people to understand that this is something that they need, but not only that, to make it easy for them to get access to, like you said. And then the webinars and all those kinds of things work too. But more than anything, like you mentioned, it's the connections that you make. And so a couple more questions. First, related to what we were just talking about. I came on board as an advisor, and I love to share, have you share if you're willing to or allowed to, what the terms are like, because I think there's a lot of software companies out there and other companies in different spaces that could benefit from having advisors come on board in a similar way that I did. And I'm not just saying that because I had this great influence, but I'm saying that because, like we were talking about, you need to get other people on board who can offer their skills and offer their influence. And so what does that look like for ConvertKit in return? Like what were you able to share with me? What were the benefits on both sides?
In a typical advisor setup, basically what that is you're looking for someone who can help move the company forward and have like maybe biweekly or monthly calls, make connections. If you're trying to raise funding, this would be a person who could lend their name and their contacts in the project to like really make that funding round pull together. And the way you typically compensate an advisor is with equity in the company. And that can range anywhere from, most common would be 0.25%, all the way up to, I've heard as high as like 1 full percent of the company. Basically what you choose there depends a lot on how far along the company is. So if you're at the idea stage, it would be more. And if you already have traction and good progress, then it would be less. So we have 2 advisors, you and Ryan Delk. And so, Pat, when you came on, I think we were officially as an advisor, I think we were doing about 25,000 a month in revenue, maybe 20,000 a month. It was just before that big push. And so for everyone who wants to know how much of ConvertKit Pat owns, the exact terms of that are 0.75% of the company, so 0.75%. And I'm trying to think, we basically that vests over 4 years, which is a pretty standard term. Normally there'd be like a 1-year cliff on that. And what we ultimately decided is like, you were basically saying, hey, I'd love to be an advisor, or I'd love for something to work, but if not, I don't care. This is my promotion plan. Oh, and by the way, it starts in 2 weeks. And so I was like, I don't think a cliff makes sense here, because we're going to get some pretty amazing value from this, not a year from now, but like, starting next Tuesday, basically.
Right.
And so we didn't do a cliff. Basically, the equity started vesting right away.
Yeah. So what that means, everybody, is it doesn't necessarily mean, or it doesn't mean that I get a check from ConvertKit for that.
Well, actually, you will get a check this year.
Oh, I will.
I don't do that. Yeah,
I didn't
you will
know
get
that.
a check.
Oh, sweet.
Everyone gets to find this out at the same time. So basically, the way we have ConvertKit structured is a little different from a standard startup. And the way we have it structured is that all of the profits, because we're not in it like to try to like build and flip a company. We're not trying to get an exit as quickly as possible. So we're trying to build a profitable company that pays out dividend checks to its owners. And so the way we're set up as an LLC, the profits flow through to the owners. And so, there will be like a check that comes out at the end of the year for, your percentage of the profits.
Sweet. I didn't know that. I got to read up on those terms a little bit better. No, that's awesome. I think I remember my attorney mentioning something about that, but it was something that wasn't expected. But, there are many more benefits to being an advisor than just the percentage of the company. There is some part ownership there. I do feel like I have a bit of the company, and even though it's a fraction of a percent, it does feel like I have some ownership there, which allows me to, in my head, and quite honestly, share it with the world in a way that's more honest and more authentic, I believe. And I'm more behind it, if you will. So that's another reason why you might want to have advisors come on board and actually share a piece of the company with them, even though it's a small piece. It works out really well for everybody, I think. But beyond that, because I have direct access to Nathan, and because I'm actually using this product as well, I'm able to reach out to him if anything happens, or if I hear anything on the front lines. I think that's one of my superpowers in the space, is I get to hear directly from people who are using these kinds of products and what people are frustrated with. So if it's something they're frustrated with, that particular software in particular, I can go directly to Nathan to get things moving quite quicker, which is great. But that's also a benefit for me because I use it too. Plus, I'm able to share my own ideas, like for features and things like that. I can run those ideas off my audience, and then if I hear that there's one particular thing that's very needed, I can go to Nathan or one of the developers or something, and we can get something created, which is awesome. And they move a little bit faster on that because my say comes with a little bit more weight. I would say, if that makes sense, Nathan. And this is similar to how I have it set up with other companies that I'm an advisor for, like Lead Pages and Samcart. And really, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the connections and just the ability to have my name next to the company. It means a lot for my business and my authenticity. And so for me as an advisor, that also comes with it too. But the other thing that I want to mention is that, because I have a fraction of a percent of the company, that means that if it were to actually exit at one point, I would be included in that as well. So, with the $440,000 that's being made every single month, I'm not making, $3,000 every month because of that. But if it were to exit at, multipliers of that, I would have, a significant income coming from that. A good chunk.
Yeah. So my job as CEO really is to build a company that's not worth like $5 million or $10 million, but my job is to build a company that's worth $100 million or more. And then when you start to look at it in those terms, like then the listeners will go, oh, okay, now I see how this math checks out.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention, and this is something that I think is, you have this, I know you have the same setup with Lead Pages, and I assume with Samcart, because I think this is a really great way to go, is the combination of equity and affiliate commissions.
Yep.
And the reason that that's so awesome is that you get rewarded in the short term, in that people can look at your income reports. ConvertKit tends to send you somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 a month. But like in the early days, you're taking a big chance, and you're lending your name and your reputation and putting it behind this product that, yes, you've used a lot, but a lot can go wrong with startups. And so for like that long-term bet, you're getting paid in equity. And for the short term, you're getting paid as an affiliate. And so if it was one or the other, I don't think it would, I don't know if the incentives would be aligned as well, but I think because of the combination of the affiliate revenue and the advisor shares, it just makes it a really good fit for everyone. And it gives you more of an incentive to take a chance on, some of these up and coming companies, as well as it gives, the company a way to compensate you. I feel like everyone's incentives are perfectly aligned in that case.
Yeah, it's cool. It's been a lot of fun, actually, and I just feel very blessed to be a part of this growing company, and I just want to, say congrats, Nathan. I know it's come a long way, and I hope everybody listening to this knows that it's not just something you could set up and then tomorrow you're going to have this amazing company with a ton of subscribers. And even if you did, like, how would you be able to handle that? There's a lot of things that come into play with team building and getting everything into place, customer service especially. And it's a long-term game. I know Nathan's running a marathon here, and we're just at the start, which is really cool. So I'm excited to see where it goes. The last thing I want to talk about, Nathan, if you have a moment, are sort of your growing pains. So right now, and I know this is something that every company goes through, but I know every company is different as well. What are some of the growing pains that you are experiencing right now with your business? I think it'd be pretty cool to hear that, even though the numbers are great, that there are still things that could be improved on and figured out.
One thing as you were talking that I remembered is, I think last fall, so probably about a year ago, we were talking of like, I asked the question, when do you think this is going to be like a real business? And you said, I think the number was 50,000 a month. Like once it hit 50,000 a month, then it feels like it's going to be a real business. And so I think it's fun to just kind of remember those conversations. Like, remember when that was the big goal. But growing pains, there are so many. I expected server issues and that kind of thing as a result of like having a fast growing company. There are plenty of months in the company that we've grown 20, 30% each month. And that's going to cause issues. We've gone from, in the period of a year, sending 1 million emails a month to sending 130 million emails a month. That has a lot of server issues. And so we put a lot of work into that. We had some downtime over the summer. What I didn't expect was all the malicious behavior. So once we kind of became a successful company and we're getting this great deliverability, we actually had a lot of people like specifically trying to attack ConvertKit and bypass the anti-spam measures. And actually we had denial of service attacks against ConvertKit. Like, I just didn't expect that level of malicious behavior. And as an example, earlier this summer I was browsing, or I heard about this from a customer, and then they told me like, hey, go on Upwork and search ConvertKit. And I'm like, okay. And so I go and look, and there's all these postings, and they're things like, hey, ConvertKit has really good deliverability. Can you reverse engineer it? And I'm like, okay, cool. Someone wants to learn how we do what we do, whatever. Next post, like a week later, ConvertKit has really good deliverability. Can you hack their anti-spam measures so they stop automatically banning our account? Because it's obviously a spammer. And then like a little while later is, ConvertKit's an email marketing service for professional bloggers. If you're a blogger, sign up and then buy, get your account approved, and then we'll buy your account from you for $100.
Weird.
And like all this kind of stuff keeps going on and on. I'm like, just like, oh man. And these people at the same time are like trying to hack the system and screw with everything. And so I don't know. I just didn't know to expect that going in. And so I spent a good, 2 or 3 months and a couple $100,000 like fighting off all of that crap. But I don't know. It's just kind of a cost of doing business. But that made my summer less enjoyable.
Yeah, well, that sucks. And, I've had that happen to me too. I've had a DDoS attack back in March of 2013, brought my site, SPI, and many other sites that I had on the same server, which was, first of all, my own mistake to have that be the case. But I was down for a week and a half, lost about 15 to 20K in projected revenues at that point. It was just bad. I mean, there are bad people out there doing bad things. So I just know that stuff is going to potentially happen. And thankfully, I had my email list and my podcast and my YouTube channel to still be able to communicate with my audience and keep them up to date. But anyway, are there any things going on in terms of growth? Like, what are you guys doing for growth right now to, continue to get the word out there? Or is it kind of at a point now where it's kind of taken off on its own?
To some extent, it's taking off on its own. But to maintain the levels of growth that we want, it takes a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So the main channels for us, and we're trying to not pursue like new things all the time. We're trying to really analyze what's working and double down on that. It's like a big thing for the last 2 years for me is just focus. Yeah. So our channels right now we do a lot of direct sales still, but we've switched that so it's not as much outbound where we're identifying prospects and cold emailing them, though we still do some of that. It's more inbound where now on our marketing site, it's trying to get people to request a demo and have those conversations. So there's that, and then there's affiliates, and we have about 2,000 affiliates. But with affiliates, there's something, I first learned this term from Chris Gillibo years ago. He called it the 98-2 rule of affiliates, and that's like 80-20, but instead of that, it's that only 2% of your affiliates will ever sell anything ever. Really it's just a power law distribution on the effectiveness of affiliates. It's not going to be equal across all of them. And so we've put a lot of work into helping our affiliates to write reviews, host webinars, and that kind of thing. Because people don't just sign up for the affiliate program and then magically start making sales. It takes a lot of, you actually have to get that content out there. So those are the big channels. And I guess I mentioned webinars. We do about 25 partner webinars every month. And so that would be with everyone ranging from Darren Rouse from ProBlogger to Pat used to hold the record for our largest ever webinars, to we just did some with John Morrow, we've done with John LeDumas, but basically we get in front of a different audience pretty much every single day for a webinar. And those could bring in anywhere from a small webinar might bring in 10 customers. Mm-hmm. And we're thrilled with that because we just got to kind of do a bulk or a mass sales call. Instead of one-on-one, it was 1 to 10 or 1 to 50. And then a big webinar for us would bring in anywhere from 100 to maybe 400 customers.
That's awesome.
We
Amazing.
do them all the time.
Love it. I mean, I know that's how a lot of other companies have grown. Lead Pages especially, they went on a big, huge webinar kick, and they're still doing that. So that's awesome. Nathan, there's been a lot of great information, very inspiring. It makes me think of what's possible for a smart podcast player or in the realm of software now that I have kind of dabbled in it. But also, I think it's a great eye-opener for people on what really happens with this kind of business, that, a lot of people see the success and they see your numbers on Barometrics and they're like, yeah, I can do that too. And maybe you can, and I hope you do, but it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. And I love how you always go back to, well, let's just solve people's problems first and talk to the customer. And that's really where it all starts. So if you're thinking about getting into any kind of business, as you might know when you read Will It Fly, or if you're taking my Smart from Scratch course as one of the founding students, that course will be launched later next year or early next year. It's all about talking to people, getting information from them. That way you can build the best thing that you can for them to help them in the easiest way possible. So Nathan, thank you so much for coming on, your time today, especially after your recent trip to Thailand. And just want to thank you again for building an awesome company and sharing your wisdom as you always do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And thanks for being a huge part of all things ConvertKit.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Nathan Barry, again, CEO and founder of ConvertKit, a company that I am an advisor for and that I dearly love. And I cannot wait to see where they go next. If you want to check them out, use my affiliate link, smartpassiveincome.com/ConvertKit. That'll get you hooked up there no matter what level you're at, even if you're just starting out. And what I love about them is that they're super easy to use. They're not overwhelming, and that's why I switched over. So you can check them out again one more time, smartpassiveincome.com/ConvertKit. Nathan, thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom. Best of luck. I know we'll get through all those growing pains, and we'll be doing that together, and I can't wait to see what the numbers are like. And if you want to check out the show notes and the resources and the links, including a link to their Bear Metrics account, which shows you exactly how much money they're making and what their monthly revenue rate is, and monthly recurring revenue numbers are, and all those things. I love that because it's so transparent. You can check that out and other links at smartpassiveincome.com/session244. Also, I want to take a quick moment just to thank you. I don't know if you realize this, but you, the listeners, have made a massive impact on the direction of where Smart Passive Income has gone. As a result of you, I've been interviewing certain guests that you've recommended. As a result of your recommendations, I've been tackling different topics that are of high interest to you. In addition to that, I created a brand new podcast called Ask Pat, which you may have heard of before. And on that show, I answer voicemail questions from you as well. You can actually check that out at askpat.com. But that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. Obviously, Ask Pat, there needs to be questions in addition to my answers in order to make that show a success. And I'm so thankful that it's there. And I have you to thank for that. I also have you to thank for pushing me to create some online courses to help you through a number of the different problems and pains that you might be having with your online business, the scaling of it, just even the start and the process of it. Even though there's a lot of great free information here via the podcast, I know this from my own experience as well, courses can be life-changing because you purchase a course and you are just in that mindset of actually doing that thing that course tells you to do. And I have a number of different courses available to you if that's the kind of thing you need in order to actually finally start getting results and taking action. So I know a number of you have already taken action, which is fine. Like, I'm not trying to push these courses on you, but they are there and available for those of you who would much prefer to get that targeted information and the accountability and the hand-holding through those processes. So if you want to check out and see all the courses that are available to you, all you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/courses. That's a page that's going to continually grow over time as well. So keep checking back, smartpassiveincome.com/courses. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. Thanks so much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you in the next episode of the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where we're going to be interviewing another highly successful entrepreneur, one that you may have not have heard of before, but he's doing great things, and he's got some really interesting stories to share. So I can't wait to share that with you. Until then, keep moving the needle, keep working on one thing at a time. You got this, and let's finish off the year strong. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. See you the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Hey, fellow podcaster, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create these social clips. Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. You just log in, record with your guests no matter where you are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. We use Riverside here at SPI as well now. With built-in AI, I can automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time, and it can even auto-generate clips to make promoting the show a breeze. And with Magic Clips, I can grab the best moments and repurpose them as short-form video, perfect for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, without re-recording a thing. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside, built by creators for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI.